So good afternoon, everybody. It's Tuesday. It's January 28th, 2014, and we're broadcasting live from the SEMrush headquarters here in Trevose, Pennsylvania, which is literally a stone's throw away from Philadelphia. We're actually right on the border of Philadelphia. So we're in the suburbs. You know, we don't have a really a trendy, cool office, but but the parking's good at least, right? And that's always a plus. Just kidding. It's a great office. It's full of colorful characters, and it's an even greater place to work. So, who's this dapper fellow here? Well, that's me. My name is David Black, and I'm the Customer Success Director here at SEMrush, and that means that I'm extremely focused on educating and interacting with our users in order to provide them with the best possible software and support experience. One of my many tasks is conducting these monthly webinars that I hope you find entertaining and, of course, valuable. So today's webinar will address three main areas. First, we'll talk about the necessity of tracking your Google rankings, and I'll briefly be demoing our position tracking software that's included with a subscription to SEMrush. And next, we'll be speaking about diagnosing Google penalties and how to recover from them. And last but not least, we'll also talk about the importance of tracking your competitors' keyword rankings, which SEMrush makes very easy to do. So, wow, there's been a lot of recent shakeups in the search world, and the biggest one being about how Expedia's rankings have tanked due to what appears to be a manual Google penalty. And that's why I feel it's very kind of pertinent to what we're discussing here today. So if you don't know, just in short, Expedia lost visibility on some pretty heavy-duty keywords that I'm sure once drove a significant amount of organic traffic to their website. A company called Searchmetrics broke this news, and SEMrush can verify that in the last week or so, they've completely fallen out of the top 2 pages of search for almost 30,000 keywords, most of which they ranked for within the first top 5 organic results. And that's a major blow to their visibility. In fact, it caused their stocks to drop about 4%. And maybe it's even more since the time that this is being recorded. And on a side note, I kind of love reading comments on blogs that say things like, wow, I can't believe Google can influence the economy so much. And while that's technically true, I believe that. But guess what? If it weren't for market research tools like SEMrush and Searchmetrics, I'm not quite sure this story may have never even seen the light of day. And I think that's a great way to kind of get the party started. So you see, SEMrush constantly monitors and records these search engine results pages of over 100 million of the world's most relevant keywords. We're able to programmatically dissect the search engine results pages of 25 international regions of Google and Bing United States. And what we do is we apply our own algorithms to the data in order to come up with some extremely insightful data about your competitors' websites and also your website. We also host an array of powerful tools that complement your internal analytics and make your research extremely easy. One of those being what we'll be discussing today, which is the position tracking tool. So we're here today to figure out why is it necessary to track your positions. So how many video gamers we got out there? How ridiculously satisfying is it to walk into the arcade? Was it ridiculously satisfying to walk into the arcade and see your initials at the top of that leaderboard on something like Street Fighter 2, right? Back then it was all about the bragging rights, but now it actually means something, except, the leaderboard's since been replaced by search engine results pages, and instead of your initials, you're actually staking your claim with a URL. And, on a side note, if your initials just happen to be URL, I think that makes you 10 times cooler in my book. So sure, you still get the bragging rights, but to the victor go the spoils, and in terms of internet marketing, that means you get the traffic. So why is it necessary to track your positions? Well, simply put, traffic is the lifeblood of your entire web presence. It's why we optimize, it's why we put so much effort into our keyword research and our content creation, and it's why we invest an exuberant amount of money into AdWords programs, and it's why Black Hat SEOs go through such great lengths to kind of game the system. We're so globally connected that trends can live and die within days and even minutes sometimes. Demands can change at the drop of a hat, and when demands change, search engines need to satisfy people's cravings for knowledge. It's consumer behavior. So people want the freshest, most satisfying content, and they want it in abundance. The search engine doesn't necessarily like to; it actually needs to keep webmasters on their toes. And if you're not gaining your traffic ethically, and you're clogging up the search engine with spam, or not giving people what they want when they type in that keyword, rest assured you will get knocked down and you'll lose that lifeblood. No one wants that to happen. Traffic is precious, and monitoring it from every angle is essential to the future success or the continued success of your website. Platforms that monitor your internal analytics don't always give you everything you need, especially down to a keyword level. So position or rank trackers are a great way to supplement your internal analytics because you can assess your visibility for the precise keywords that you're targeting. So for SEO agencies and departments, it's also another way to quantify and report on your efforts. You can essentially use it almost like a bookmark to see exactly how an internal change or something like that to your website has affected your keyword rankings. And you can also use your rankings as a means of identifying and diagnosing search engine algorithms like changes to them like we'll be talking about today. And if your software is really good, you can use it to identify and keep track of your competitors. So what are the benefits of tracking your competitors' ranking for the same keywords? Well, typically, if you're familiar with a position tracking software of some sort, you know that you create some sort of campaign consisting of a primary domain and then a set of keywords for which to track positions. And software such as SEMrush, it kind of allows you to identify up to 5 competitors to track for the same keywords as the primary domain. And you'd be surprised how many users actually skip right over this option. I think some internet marketers may have a hard time latching on to the idea of competitor analysis in general because they've never only had direct access to their own internal analytics. So I don't think they've ever, sometimes they don't understand the scope of the insight available to them in various platforms. And if you don't know what's out there and how it can benefit you, how are you actually ever going to be able to warm up to it? So what are some of the benefits? Well, first there's general benchmarking, and that's pretty obvious. You need an overall assessment of how you stack up to the competition in terms of visibility. And that kind of reminds me of an internal meeting we had here about the SWOT method. I'm not sure if you guys know what that means, but it's SWOT, and it stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it kind of applies to search because, your strengths are the keywords that you're already ranking for, specifically any keywords in which you're outranking the competition. And developing on that strategy around those keywords could eventually help you rank for broader terms. Your weaknesses are those keywords in which you're being outperformed by the competition. Opportunities, those are being the keywords for which you'd like to rank but currently don't. And again, building on those strengths we mentioned earlier can eventually help you achieve and kind of meet those opportunities. And threats are those pesky competitors that are coming to creep on your potential visitors, like the guy at the bar with the weird mustache, right? Ladies, you know what I'm talking about. When you're at the bar or out at the club, you have to be able to spot these creepy mustache guys before they even approach. And that's what position tracking allows you to do. Essentially, you get to not only see the competitors that you've identified, but you also get to see who's starting to creep on your search engine results pages. So position tracking may also give you a lot of insight into your competitors' SEO strategy. So something like noticing sharp shifts in their rankings for keywords, may indicate something was done internally. It's usually indicative of maybe a technical change like improved on-site optimization or general housekeeping after a Google penalty. And it may take a little further analysis may be required to pinpoint why their rankings improve, but if there's something that you can take away from it and apply it to your own website or your own strategy, then you've already experienced the benefits of tracking your competition. And a lot of that is sort of generalized and focused on organic results, but what about tracking your competitors for the same AdWords you're running? So doing so, sorry, I missed a bullet point there, but it's going to reveal something. So tracking the same AdWords is also going to reveal something about their bidding practices in AdWords. So for example, you may discover that they're bidding on your branded keywords and there's some sort of action you can take to stop it if possible, or you can also track keep track of when they start bidding on new keywords and when they stop. Monitoring that closely may actually help you determine where they're allocating their marketing dollars. Are they doing it aggressively? Are they launching or pushing a new product or service? Maybe they've slightly improved some aspect of the business or picked up a new product and are making a big push to market it. This is all the stuff that you can kind of use the data to figure out. And on the other hand, if they drop the keyword or a group of keywords, from their arsenal, so to speak, you also want to ask yourself why. To take it a step further, you may be considering bidding on a new group of keywords, so you start tracking your competitors for them first to see how often or how aggressively they bid on them. And this will help you determine if the keyword may be profitable or not. Right? And the last point of all this is that tracking AdWords positions may give you a little insight into your competitor's delivery schedule. So you won't be able to necessarily get down to the precise minute or hour of that delivery schedule, but you can get an idea of how their ads are delivered at least on a daily basis. Maybe you've been tracking this competitor and figured out that their ads only show on Wednesdays through Saturdays, and they have the budget to throw around, so maybe they've already determined that there's no value in running the ad on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And altering your delivery schedule could ultimately help reduce unqualified clicks and lower your spending toward that particular ads group. Okay, so I appreciate you guys letting me kind of pontificate for a moment there. And before I switch over, all right, so we're going to be looking at focusing on the position tracking aspect of our software today. Normally, people are very up to date with our web interface, but a lot of people don't know that we offer position tracking. Still, we've offered it for quite some time, and a lot of people still don't know that we offer that. So when you do have a subscription or you're inside of SEMrush, it's located right under here in the tools section of the navigation menu. You see position tracking here, as well as some other great tools. Now, right now, I've just logged into SEMrush, and I'm currently in the dashboard section right after you log in. And I'm going to try to keep this demo section pretty brief so that I can take questions afterwards if anybody has them, whether it be about position tracking or the software in general. I'm always happy to help. So we can see here that we have a little module for position tracking, and it's going to tell you the name of the campaign. It's going to give you a little snapshot, just like all these other little snapshots here, and it's going to give you the name of the campaign, when it was last updated, the overall visibility, which I'll get into later. It's also going to show you, and this is all pertaining to organic data. So it's going to tell you how many of your keywords are posting up results for, results on the search engine results pages for the top 3 results, or how many keywords are producing first page results or within the first 2 pages of results. Okay, but normally, if you don't have a keyword, a position tracking campaign ready, it's just going to be a big old button that says start a new campaign. And that's what we're going to do. I'm going to start a new campaign from scratch. And it's pretty easy stuff. So let's look at a hypothetical business. I'm going to do embrepairs.com, and this is an embroidery machine repair shop, a local shop. So just going from the top down, we have 5 different steps that you can take, but only about 3 of them are required. So you're asked to put in a primary domain, and now you have 4 choices here. You can choose to track a root domain. You can track a subdomain, something like www.embrepairs.com, or a services.embrepairs.com. You could do a subfolder, so something like embrepairs.com/blog, or you can do an exact URL, http:// embrepairs.com/services.html. Just think about how your results are appearing on the search engine results pages, and that's how you figure out what to track. 90% of the time, you'll probably just track a root domain, though. So we're going to head and choose a root domain, and now we can give it a little custom title. So let's give it a custom title so that we can differentiate it from the rest of the campaigns. And it's a local place, so we're going to do EMB Repairs Local Campaign, right? And now, here's where the beauty of the position tracker actually comes in, because while the SEMrush web interface that you're used to operates kind of on a national level, but with the position tracking software, what we can do is actually manipulate the query that's going into into Google, not just the keyword query, but also the giant, location-based query and all that other pertinent information. So just by default, what we're going to do is select the country, and we're going to do United States. If this were a national level campaign, we could just leave it at United States and omit the region and the city. But this is a local campaign, so let's do Pennsylvania. We can either scroll through or we can just search. Okay, we're going to do Pennsylvania. If you want to do it on a statewide level, you just omit the city. But let's do Philadelphia to get it down to a local region. We'll choose Philadelphia. Okay, so now we've chosen the location, and step 3 is going to ask us to choose competitors. With SEMrush, we can define up to 5 competitors to track for the same keywords. You could skip this step for right now, but let's go ahead and add a hypothetical. Did I spell that right? Hypothetical competitor 1.com. Okay, same options apply: root domain, subdomain, subfolder, track URL. I'm just going to go ahead and add that in there. Now, step 4 is going to ask you to connect to your Google services, whether it's analytics or webmaster tools. The only thing that we really have access to is the keywords anyway, which you can import, you'll see later. But for right now, I'm going to skip this step. Okay. And this is where we're going to start adding those keywords. Here's the last step in the process. And we're going to do embroidery, machine repair, enter, and we can do machine repair. I'm just typing in a bunch of random keywords. So Tajima, which is a embroidery machine, Tajima repair. So anything that's kind of pertinent to your business products or services. We can do it manually by entering them one at a time. We can do it from SEMrush, so this is a little powerful tool. We can do it by domain, so if they already have profiles available in our web interface, you can actually extract the keywords right from there very simply. So if repairs.com is ranking for some organic keywords, we can just pop them in very quickly using that sort of function. Or you can do AdWords, choose how many you'd like, and then hit suggest. We can do it also by phrase match, so if you want to do it by keyword, you can do that as well. If you'd like, you can import them from a text file or CSV, or you can do it, as I mentioned earlier, directly from your Google services. So we're just going to keep it manual for right now. We have 3 keywords here, and we can add tags, which is a new feature that SEMrush offers, the keyword tagging. It's in its infancy, but we can just add a tag like branded keywords or something like that. They're not really branded keywords, but just for the sake of an example. And what we're going to do is we're going to choose this little option here to move it over, commit them to the campaign. You can see that they appear here with their tags underneath. If we wanted to remove them, we could do that there, but I want to keep those. So before we start tracking, we can actually choose to send weekly updates via email, which is another great option. So you'll receive that, a summary basically, essentially, to your email once a week. All right, now we're going to hit start tracking. And depending on the amount of keywords, it's going to take anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour to gather the data on those keywords, at least for today. You won't start seeing position tracking data where it gets really useful until about 2 or 3 days when it's had time to actually start populating that data for more than one day. Okay, so while that's running, it's going to take you directly to the campaign overview, which shows you all the campaigns that you're currently running. And while that's going, I'm going to jump to another example of a national campaign that I have running. So as you can see, West Pole Metal National, that's the name of that campaign. And this is a metal distribution company located here in Pennsylvania. And I'm tracking their keywords for which are pertinent to their company. So as you can see, we're telling you the name of the campaign, the location, root domain, when it was last updated, and then some other overview information such as a visibility score, which again I'll talk about in a couple seconds, but there's a quick overview of what visibility actually means, how many keywords are contained in the campaign, and again that that module about how many keywords are producing results in the top 3, within the first page, within the first 2 pages, and how your rankings have changed. So ranking changes. You can see here that 3 keywords have increased in ranking since yesterday, while 3 keywords have declined in ranking. And then you have your other email options here as well, editing and removing. But I don't want to edit or remove. So I'm just going to go here and start taking a look at these campaigns. Oops, sorry. Okay, so here we are in the Overview tab, and you'll notice here that it's kind of set up very similar to a Google property, something like Google AdWords, where it has these keyword rankings in these tabs that you can kind of toggle between. I also have multiple tabs open up here just in case things take a while to load up. But what we're looking at here is the Overview tab. Again, you have those Overview rankings, visibility index graph, and then this table down here. So what the Overview is going to allow you to do is kind of assess the current state, the current daily state of you and your competitors' rankings. Basically, how those rankings have changed on a daily basis, and the overall visibility for the keywords that you're tracking. Now, visibility index, what is that? It's a graph, obviously, there it is. It's a graph, and we look at all the keywords in your campaign as well as where you rank for them in order to assign you a quantitative score on a scale of 0 to 100. Okay, so I don't know the exact algorithm, but of course, we're going all the way back to the 100th position. So we're saying that if you rank for a keyword in the 100th position, chances are you're not seeing much visibility. So the visibility is very low on that. If you're ranking in the first position, you're getting a much higher level of visibility. So looking at basically proportionately all the keywords in your campaign versus where you rank for them, that's how we're able to determine that visibility score. Okay? And I think this is pretty self-explanatory, as you can see here. It's just a quick overview. It's going to show you it's sorted by the primary domain and top performing keywords first, and then it's going to have these little icons, green for increasing and by how many positions. You can see this keyword for metal distributors has increased by 1 position in the SERPs, and then metal standing, this keyword has decreased in positions just by 1, while some down here have gone up about 4 positions. All right, so that's a great way to kind of see where it is on a daily basis. And you can switch, any of these reports allow you to switch between organic and AdWords. So if you're tracking AdWords, you can just toggle right over, and it's pulling it from the same search engine results pages. So now we're going to go to the keyword rankings report just by clicking on that tab. All right. And keyword rankings, this is the real heart of these reports, and this is what people are looking at. I'd say this is the most popular report in the position tracking software. Use this to monitor your daily organic or paid keyword rankings, as you again see here. You can track where your closest competitors rank for the same keywords, and then you can plot these keyword rankings graphically on this graph here. So as you can see right now, we're looking on a daily basis. Here's January 2014, starting at the 22nd to the 28th, which is today, because it's set to the last week. But I could set this to the last month or the last year and track my positions and see where they are. Not just for myself, but also for my competitor, mbci.com. Okay. And now this graph here, it's going to allow you to plot up to 5 keywords on one specific graph, on this top graph. You can do so by checking these radio buttons. You can put up to 5 in there and then choosing the plot graph symbol again. And there you go. Now you have a visual representation of where these keywords lie over a period of time. And it's a pretty simple report. Something that's of interest here would be that you can actually click on any of these cells at any time and pull up some more information. So the date that the keyword was queried, what the keyword is, the landing page that's associated with that, and you can actually jump to see a search engine results page, a snapshot of that search engine results page on that given day. So if you need to get really granular and get down to the nitty-gritty, you can see how that's happening. And you can do that for any of these lit up cells, which I think is great. Okay, and as I said, the competitor buttons kind of act as tabs, so we can switch back to our own domain as well. So next we're going to look at the domain comparison tab. And this report I think is really useful because you can place up to 5 competitors in a single report view. As you can see here, the primary domain is always going to be locked on, of course. That's what you always want to see there. And my competitor is locked on. I could take that off if I wanted to, but if I had more competitors, I can choose up to 5 and compare them. And as you can see, both competitors are already populated for data in this report, and the report is sorted by the largest positive growth in the primary domains keyword ranking. So as you can see, commercial flat roof construction details has bumped up 47 positions. And we can resort this any way we want. If we want to see which keywords have lost the most positions, we can do that as well. And also, just like the other report, we can see changes over certain periods of time, whether it be last week, last month, or last year. We can set a custom date range. Essentially, what you're doing is you're defining a start and an end date. So that would be the start date, and this would be the end date. And it'll tell you how those keyword rankings have changed over time, so that we can quickly identify where either ourselves or our competitors are winning or losing, basically. So if we wanted a different perspective, what we could do is we could sort under the primary domain here, westpolemetal.com. We could sort the most recent day in ascending order and look at our top performing keywords, basically, and then see, how they've changed. So, we're looking at it from a different angle, and then we're getting the ability to see that stacked side by side with our competitor, which puts a whole new light on different things, I think. Instead of just looking at the keyword rankings report alone, it lets you see how they compare side by side, and usually that's a lot better for people to digest that information. Okay, so the final tab in here would be the competitors discovery report. And I actually love this report. It's actually very handy because currently I have one competitor in here, but I can find multiple competitors based on the keywords in my campaign. So actually it's probably a lot of data that it's pulling together, hundreds and thousands of domains probably. So let's jump to one of these tabs that I had open already. Okay, so we can discover and then we can track multiple competitors based on the keywords in our campaign. We can identify and isolate the keywords that we're both ranking for, and we can match competitors based on a number of criteria. So what you can see here is by default there's some pretty good settings, but also we can match by root domain, subdomain, and URL. And then what we could do is actually set the depth. And this will aggregate all the domains that are ranking and sort them by the number of keywords for which they're ranking, whether it be in the top 5 organic results, top 10, top 20, or top 100. And right now it's set to top 20. So it's pulled together over 400, just about 400 competitors that rank for the same keyword. So if I'm trying to watch out for those guys who are creeping on my search engine results pages, here's where I would do it. So right now I see Wikipedia, that's fine. You're always going to compete with Wikipedia pretty much. But also MBCI, that's one of the competitors that I already have listed. And as you can see, that's why this row is actually highlighted different color. But what about these guys? CentriaPerformance.com here. It shows that within the top 20 in the depth, they're actually ranking for 12 of the same keywords. So maybe I want to watch out for them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up here to the Edit Competitors button, and I'm going to add them in there as well. So let's see if I type it in right, CentriaPerformance.com. I can quickly save that and add them in as one of my competitors. And two great things are going to happen here. So not only am I adding another competitor and I'm able to track them, and you'll see here they're also added in there, I can isolate the keywords for which they rank the same keywords by clicking that, and it's going to jump back to the keyword rankings report for Centria Performance. And then another great thing is not only are you seeing those keywords, even though I just added this domain today, it actually went back and retroactively populated their rankings for the same keywords for the life of the existence of my campaign that I created before. So I think that's another great thing. So now I can go back and actually look at how they've been moving up in the ranks. As you can see here, second page for Metal Wall, and then they're kind of starting to go up. So maybe they're doing something internally there. Maybe they're, my competitor analysis efforts that should shift to that focus and see what they're doing. Maybe there's some sort of takeaway from there. All right. So in a nutshell, that is the position tracking software. We offer video tutorials here on top of each tab in the software. has its own video tutorial. We allow you to apply filters just like any other SEMrush report. This is these filters are very much like Excel, but you're doing this all in SEMrush before even exporting to XLS or CSV or even PDF reporting for those guys that would like to produce a report for their bosses or their clients, and that's what this allows you to do. And at the guru level, you can actually brand those with your own internal branding. So that pretty much concludes that portion of it. Let me see if there's any questions. Does anybody have any questions? Let me see. I see. Let's just go through a couple of these and see what I can pull out here. I thought we were tracking our competitors for an embroidery company. Yeah, that is true. I use that as a way to set it up, to illustrate how to set that up. But then we did move to one that I already had loaded up just for the sake of time. So how many keywords are you able to track? Well, that depends on the account level. So different levels allow for different amounts of campaigns and different amounts of keywords spread across those campaigns. So what we could do is just take a look real quick at the SEMrush's prices page in order to kind of show you very quickly. We allow you to track 500 keywords across 5 campaigns at the pro level. And then also, moving up to Guru would be 1,500 keywords across 50 campaigns. So I appreciate you asking. There's also enterprise level for those interested in tracking a lot more keywords. And again, we have custom accounts available to you as well. So if you need to track more keywords than that, you can do so. Okay. So because you're able to track these fluctuations in your rankings on a daily basis, it's kind of easy to see how software like this can really come in handy, especially when diagnosing and dealing with any kind of Google penalties. So unless you're hit with a manual penalty, which Google often provides an explanation for most of the time, you're usually left wondering why your traffic has suddenly taken a nosedive. And there's a few great resources, like a section found on Moz here, that track the updates of Google algorithm changes, and they've been doing this for years. It's actually completely invaluable. So when you're looking at something like this side by side with your daily rankings, it's going to be really easy to correlate. However, it can be a few days before the search engine verifies and confirms these algorithm updates. So let's just take a quick look at a slide that shows a few keyword rankings for an anonymous domain that was clearly hit by an update, if you don't mind. Okay, so I'm just going to jump back. Okay, so here's an anonymous domain. It's been affected, what seems to be affected by an algorithm update around the 4th or 5th of October of 2013. And while this is a pretty clear case of what a penalty would look like, as you can see how it looks on a given day, this domain lost a huge portion of their rankings for valuable keywords in October of 2013. But what update was this domain a victim of? And that's what we're going to be able to see. And just very briefly, we're going to talk about algorithm updates. So now that we've seen how to use the software to kind of automate your position tracking efforts, and seen an example of a website that's been affected by an algorithm update, we could talk about these algorithm updates for a moment. And I don't think we need to harp on them too much or spend a lot of time on them, because a lot of people already know about them, even at people at the intermediate level, But the two main algorithm updates were, of course, Penguin and Panda. Now, Panda's focus was to combat web spam by penalizing sites with low-quality content, whether it's a duplicate or thin. Google released a list of bullet points that allow you to see what they actually consider to be low-quality content. Panda came out in 2011, but it's been through a couple of iterations since then, and the effects have lessened with each refresh. So Google's actually integrated Panda into their normal indexing process, and while that makes diagnosing Panda-related issues a little tougher, usually a general loss in rankings is the biggest indicator of being hit. So How do you recover from Panda? Well, since it's been worked into the indexing, it's more of a preemptive strike. But you want to analyze, you want to audit your site's content, remove any duplicate content, or try to completely rework the content so that it actually adds value to your site. Because simply rewriting it so that it's not duplicative in its most literal sense may not be enough. How did Matt Cutts put it? They want to return to the roots of traditional publication and provide quality that's kind of up to par with the magazines and books or something to that effect. So, you can do your site auditing, and if you'd like to semi-automate the process, you can turn to tools, of course, such as SEMrush. That currently we have a site audit tool in the beta stage. It allows you to enter your domain and crawl it on a regular basis to identify any errors like duplicate titles and content, as well as any other technical errors that may hurt your rankings. So, using site audit and position tracking in conjunction actually makes it really easy to identify if and when improvements to your content and technical SEO have had an effect on your rankings. Now, how about, check out the SEMrush site audit tool. So, how about Penguin? Well, there's a ghastly character there. There's Danny DeVito in his days on the hit TV show Taxi. While Panda may not be seen much these days, the last refresh was confirmed as recently as October of 2013, and that was an iteration called Penguin 2.1. In fact, a lot of people thought their rankings went down in early October due to the Hummingbird algorithm, but that's clearly not the case. The Penguin update focused on ridding search results of spam caused by what Google deems as artificial linking techniques with emphasis on the anchor text being used. So every so often you hear of some legit websites and agencies being hit by Penguin, and it kind of still continues to this day. It's unfortunate when these websites lose insane amounts of traffic because it translates into a loss in revenue, but you're always playing a very dangerous game when your livelihood relies strictly on organic referral traffic from Google anyway. So usually your link profile, it's the culprit. And again, recovery requires you to do an in-depth audit of your backlinks profile. And there's a lot of software suites that specialize in indexing the backlinks across millions and millions of domains in order to understand and assess the websites that are linking to yours. And you can even research your competitors to assess their backlinks profile. And the name of the game is natural link building. Automatic updates, algorithm updates are unbiased, so you have to get rid of as many unnatural links as possible in any way that you possibly can. If you can't get webmasters to remove them, you can always use Google's disavow tool located in Webmaster Tools. Essentially, you're manually submitting a request to Google asking them not to consider said links since their appearance is kind of completely out of your control. Next, your anchor text, of course, should be as natural as possible. Google's definitely going to scrutinize your link profile if it contains a bunch of links with the same anchor text or a very generic set of anchor text like click here. If you evenly and naturally distribute that anchor text with things like branded phrases, raw URLs, or even the name of an author or webmaster, I think you're going to be in pretty good shape. If you're trying to clean up a link profile, try your best to use these tactics to dilute the current unnatural state of your anchor text. And keep link relevancy in mind, too. That's extremely important. So, for example, if you were linking back to an article about Google's new self-driving car, you don't want to use the anchor text like quote-unquote, click here to read the article. You want to use something relevant like Google unveils new self-driving car of the future or something like that. So once you start implementing these changes, you can then watch your position tracking campaigns and kind of see the result of your efforts. All right, so I hope this didn't take too long. I hope everyone found it informative. Again, I missed another bullet point. Sorry about that. But in closing, with the right knowledge and the right tools at your disposal, you can now build on a very healthy strategy. So remember, Google may have come a long way in a very short amount of time, but it's still very much in its infancy. It's only going to continue getting better and smarter and more advanced. And with your livelihood at stake, there's really no room for bad practices. So please, I'd urge you to stop trying to game the system. It's kind of fun and exciting, but there's really no longevity in that. For those looking for third-party SEO agencies, be sure to hire someone reputable. Ultimately, you kind of get what you pay for out there. But let's not forget, while we're here today, we're not necessarily here to talk about algorithm changes. We're here to talk about position tracking. And with that being said, website rankings are publicly available data, and it's the search engine's way of essentially telling you what works and what doesn't. They use very sophisticated factors to determine what's going to be valuable to the end user, also known as your potential customer or visitor. You just kind of know how to decode the message, but it's really easy. Lower rankings means you're doing something wrong. So monitor those rankings along with your competitors' rankings and kind of start prospering from that newfound knowledge and that data. So, with that being said, I'd like to offer you, all the attendees here, the opportunity to take advantage of a promotional code that SEMrush has to offer for 2 free weeks of the Guru level account. The only thing that I ask of you is to take a very brief survey that's going to open up after the webinar. It's about 3 or 4 questions. So once you close out the webinar, you'll be directed to a survey, and the last question actually has that contained in it. So the promo code actually contained in the last question. So make sure you write that down and save it and use it for later. I really do appreciate you guys coming out and taking the time today. Let's see if there's any questions I can answer before